La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Hello, crafters. Big D here. Hello, Mr. Kirschbaum, and let's go. All right. We are coming up on the dawn of Horus Heresy 2.0. We are hype. Oh my God, we are hype. Hype, 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 hype. Oh my God. Superfly, Mr. Kirschbaum, and Mr. Tucker. Good to see all three of you so far tonight. And we are happy to have you here and happy to be part of the show tonight. Oh my God. We are so freaking hype right now. I mean, all right, let's talk about what's on the bench. Well, we're painting. We're not painting anything of our own right now. We're still working on this commission. So all we're doing is printing. It's the weekend after. So the Horus Heresy box set is going to be on pre-sale for 2 weeks. So it went on pre-sale this past weekend. It'll still be on pre-sale this next weekend. It'll come out, which would be, I'm trying to think. What's the date of that? Today is the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. It should be coming out on the 18th. And what I am planning on doing, literally, the day I get my box, I am going to sit down with somebody who knows Horus Heresy. And if I can't find somebody available, I'm just going to sit down with like 2 or 3 other people that have the box set, and we're going to sit down with the rules that come in the box. And we're going to talk about the rules, see if we can figure them out. I'm going to write notes. And then I'm immediately going to put together some content on how to play Horus Heresy, because I am so freaking hyped for this game. Y'all know how much I love 40K. I'm not going to lie. Y'all know how much I love 40K. And I do. I love 40K. I really, really am starting to love Age of Sigmar. Like, the more I play it, the more I'm like, this is a good game. I was not expecting it to be as good as it is. It is a good game. I am so hype right now. I am so, like, for Horus Heresy right now. So, what we've been working on, we've been printing. So, this is a reconstructed original 1992 plastic Land Raider that I've put a little bit of mods on, as you can see by the wolf heads, that I've printed. And this is the same thing as a Land Raider Proteus. So I have one of these right now. She's good. It does need more antlers, except there are no antlers. There are no antlers in 30K. I dig your antler stuff. Let me say, I am loving the antler stuff you've been doing, man. The stuff you show me, I'm just like, oh man, this is freaking awesome. But there's no place for that in 30K. Place in 40K, that'd be great. No 30K. 30K is. Yeah, we're gonna do posted tags. We're gonna sit down, and I'm gonna bring a highlighter, and I'm gonna have post-it note tags, and I'm gonna have a notebook, and I'm gonna literally sit down. Yeah, you kind of are. You kind of are. Not gonna lie, you kind of are. Which is lame. I understand why though. I mean, it really is like just do this. It is a different game, so the Primaris just don't even have a place. That's okay. That is okay. But all these ancient freaking minis I have, and all these old sculpts, and all these old scans of out of print shit, plus all the stuff I have, I'm just excited. So yeah, okay. So again, this is what's on the bench. Other than the stuff I'm painting, which is in the next room, I have this bad boy that is all built, ready to be primed, ready to go. Look at this thing. Look at the detail on this thing. This thing is ready to kill some heretic Astartes for daring to rise up against the Emperor. This bad boy needs to sit in the light, but here is his torso. And his arms are currently in the printer. And I've got some legs for him. And the wolves will be having a Leviathan ready to run around with them and explain to people the problems with doing bad stuff. I'm also preparing for the box of Beakies that are going to come in that Heresy box set. So I've been printing wolf shoulders. I've done 2 sets of these prints to make sure I have enough. Yeah. So, and I picked up a few things. Picked up a bottle of AK's Diorama Corrosion Texture. We already had some snow. I got a thing of mud because the wolves are going to be on not the ice spaces that like my 40K Space Wolves are famous for. I'm putting them on taiga. So I'm going to lay down a layer of mud and put like footprints. I'll put some rocks and stuff in there. And then put the mud down, and then put some footprints in the mud. And then by the rocks, I'll have some big growths of dead, like tall brown, tufts, and then some really small, bright green tufts to show it's just coming up. Put a little bit of snow by the rocks and on the dead stuff, and then take some water effect and put it in a couple of the footprints to really just make it look like it's wet and muddy and melting snow and just there. And that's what those bases are going to look like. They're just going to be big wet messes. So that's the plan for their bases. Alternately, I'm going to be building my I'm going to build them side by side. I actually going to build them. I'm going to be putting together my word bearers, and I'm going to put them on just kind of blasted earth. I'm gonna get the good old fashioned just the crackle texture paste and just put that down so they're just on kind of nasty partial desert crackle, just dead dry area, and put some small brown tufts on them and just leave them to look like they're just walking through wastelands. And that's the plan there. But the nice thing is I have a limit. I'm getting that starter box. I may buy eventually like a Kratos or a Sicarian for one or the other. I already have a bunch of vehicles because I have a bunch of old like Rogue Trader era vehicles that I'm going to be cleaning up and rebuilding and painting to go with my Horus Heresy armor set. And I've learned a lot. Oh my gosh, I've been doing so much research and reading while I've been sitting here and doing stuff. And while I've been painting, doing lots of research. Lots of research. So Horus Heresy is coming. And that's part of the reason why the weird title tonight about my lazy eye acting up. I have been doing a lot of reading, and so my weak eye has been in magnifying and reading glasses a lot over the last week. Not as bad as it was when I decided to paint 300 models in a week or paint 100 models in a week. But it's been in a lot. So it's not giving me headaches, but it's at the point where it's like, no, I don't want to cooperate. So I had to not do a lot of reading tonight and just kind of let the eye rest. Because I needed to be available for work. Because that's the other part where I'm wearing my glasses a lot, because I'm doing a kind of an audit at work, going through some system files, and I work in IT, so I end up wearing my glasses a lot at work lately because I'm doing a lot of data work lately, and so my left eye is just freaking out on me the last couple days. So, it's nice having a teenager in the house. What's this say? I can't read it. What do you mean you can't read it? I can't focus right now. Damn it. Just read it for me. But yeah, so I am stupidly hyped for Horus Heresy. And basically for me, Horus Heresy is just taking a step backwards. It's playing an older version of the game system. But I'm okay with that because it's going to be... I'm hyped. My God, I'm so stupidly hyped for this game system. I'm hyped for the figures. I'm hyped for playing something new. I'm hyped for playing because there's a lot of other people that are going to be playing it. I mean, you talk around our local community, a lot of people like, yeah, I'm going to finally do that. A lot of people are pulling the trigger. It's funny because you're seeing out on like Reddit, on the Warhammer 30K forums on Reddit, you're seeing a very quick divide building up. You have bunches of new players that are showing up and asking lots of questions, wanting to understand. They're trying to pre-buy stuff and get their hands on stuff ahead of time, and stuff that they can get their hands on. Hey, do these work? Can I use these firstborns? Can I use some of these firstborn? And here's the honest truth to you. I can be honest with you. There are two important things to realize about Horus Heresy. If you don't like a game that gets down to the minutia of combat, like, what side are the guns coming from? Which armor are they facing? The vehicles are a lot more complicated than they are in 8th, 9th edition. If that's not something you're into, and if you don't want to deal with templates and stuff, Horus Heresy is not for you. I will tell you that right now. It's just not for you. Secondly, if you don't have active players that you know of in your area, if you don't know of other people that are playing, I can completely understand the hesitation to not get into the game. One of the big things that's kept me out of a couple miniatures games that looked really, really cool to me. A couple of game things. One of the main things that's kept me out of them is that, yeah, this game looks really cool. Does anybody else play this game? Do I know anybody that plays this game? Great. I can buy this game for me, and I could buy a copy of it for a friend of mine, like one other friend, and then, because I can get Commodore to play anything. If I go, here, play this, let's play, he'll go. He'll go pretty much. Although again, he's looking at Horus Heresy like, I don't know. But there's a lot of games I can at least get him to try. But that's one person. That's not a game I want to get involved in. if I can't find a local play group for it, I don't want to play it. Now, admittedly, I've got a game that I know there's a large player base for it, and I could get like I want to get into Flames of War pretty badly. But unfortunately, the only player base I know for Flames of War play on a day that I already have commitments on. So I have a starter box I've had for 2 years that I haven't cracked open even because I know I don't have the ability to play with anybody right now. And until I know I have the time, the ability, and the people to play with, I don't want to put the mental effort into playing this game. Mr. Meeks, how you doing, buddy? If I don't have somebody I know I'm going to be able to play with, I don't want to put the mental. I don't want to put all the work, the mental effort, the building an army, painting an army, lore of the army, blah 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 blah. I don't want to put that into a game that I'm not going to be able to play with somebody else. And yeah, okay, if I have one other person I'll play, okay, well, I mean that could be fun, but yeah. That was one of the bigger problems I had with when I got into HeroClix. When I first started playing HeroClix years and years and years ago, and this was when it first came out. So 15 years ago? 15-ish years ago. When I first got into it, there were quite a number of people playing. And there were a lot of us playing that game. And it was a lot of fun when we first started playing the game. And then a lot of people, they did a new edition and they changed a lot of the rules and they got cards involved. They had all these other changes made to the rules. And a huge, huge amount of the play base left the game. And there was nobody left to play with. I packed up my figures and they're sitting in boxes and been sitting on the boxes for years. Absolutely years they've been sitting on boxes. A lot of the ones that look normal civilians I've rebased and turned them into just regular figures for role-playing games that I use. The superheroes are still in their boxes. I think I put a lot of them up in the attic because there's just no reason to have them. I'm not going to play them. Same thing happened with Mage Knight. Mage Knight is a perfect example of a game that when I was playing it, I mean, at one point I was in the top 50 players in the nation playing Mage Knight, and then they forget the name of the edition change, but they did an edition change, and you had cards now that you needed with all the figures. All the old figures were not usable. You needed all new figures. There was this massive changeover in the system, and like everybody I played with went and literally left the game. Most of them went to go back to playing Magic the Gathering. A bunch of us went to go play HeroClix. Some of my friends just went to play other games and just left. And all those Mage Knight figures, they're sitting in boxes. So Mage Knight was a WizKids game previous to HeroClix. It was called Mage Knight. It came out in the late 90s and was from like the late 90s to the early 2000s. And then they had this massive revamp, I want to say in like 2004 or 2005. And then they had a couple edition changes in there. Then they had this massive revamp, and it like lost a massive player base. I don't think it recovered. I think it lasted for only like one or two releases after that and fell apart. But then, HeroClix took over, and HeroClix made good. I mean, I think they still make HeroClix. They've changed a lot of the formats on it, but that went through a revision change at one point. And I've been told like some of my older figures are now useful again because there's reprints going on and people want some little figs. I'm tempted to dig them out of the attic and see if any of them are valuable, just to get rid of them and buy more Warhammer because, Warhammer is good. Warhammer is eternal. I got a metal Bjorn the Fell-Handed from 1993, and I can put that on the table and play with it right freaking now. So there's that. Um, so yeah, one of the big things about for me with 30K, I mean with Horse Heresy, is that if I don't know of at least 3 or 4 other people that are playing, so we have regular play groups going on, I wasn't going to get into it. But as soon as I'm like, this looks really good, a lot of people were like, this is a good game. A lot of the guys were already playing, and then a lot of people are on the fence were like, you know what? This looks cool. Let's do it. So cool. We got a lot of people involved. Let me quick go over the chat here a minute here. Some of the miles. Yeah, and I don't agree. Excited for it. And then it is, yeah, the storytelling portion of it's really good. Mix, Sigmar, all the stuff, but base is 40K. Yeah, I mean that really is me too, honestly. There small number for AOS. It's growing. There's actually, it's funny. For Age of Sigmar, if you go out to like hobby nights out in West Bend, they've got a big regular group of players that play Age of Sigmar there too. And oddly enough, the Milwaukee Wargamers have a pretty. There's actually a lot of Age of Sigmar goes on in the area. They're just not in the areas we're used to playing in until we start reaching out and talking to the gamers, because like I understand there's a bunch of Age of Sigmar that goes out in Brookfield. Yeah, hobby nights. I mean, I love hobby nights. I love those guys there. And yeah, I mean, I've talked to some of the guys there. There is another YouTube channel called The Die Is Cast. They're a really great Age of Sigmar YouTube channel. And they're local. They're based out of Wisconsin. Actually, they normally play up up at Hobby Nights. And they just did an event, I want to say like a month and a half ago, at the Game Universe in Mequon. And apparently they're going to be doing quarterly events at Game Universe in Mequon, just because that's their neck of the woods is out north like that. So Mr. Meeks, dude, Death Guard are really cool. They and their paint scheme will be different for you, man. Their paint scheme is really cool because it's not the 40K paint scheme. They're a bone white with green shoulders, so they're a cool looking army. I don't know, man. I mean, you know how much I love Death Guard, but they're not the gross weirdness like you're used to in 40K. This is like they've just started their fall. So they're more just like tough and we're gonna march on in, and they're very just so they are a very cool army in 30K. Honestly, if I wasn't so absolutely enamored with the idea of doing word bearers, I was probably going to do both my 40K armies, do them in 30K, and do Death Guard in 30K, but I couldn't. I really wanted to do the word bearers, and they do get some really cool options like the Terminators. For the Death Guard in 30K, they get those ones with the scythes, the Death Shrouds. They're different than they are in 40K, but you can see where they are because they're still in the Kafrakti armor and they've got these big scythes, and they are deadly. So they're pretty cool, man. And they love vehicles, man. They're all about like, taking the ground. Like they will, they cross the ground, they go from trench to trench, and they're trench fighters. So they'll come in with their vehicles and they just kind of rumble forward and move forward, lots of troops and lots of vehicles, and just kind of marching forward, never ending. So they're pretty cool. And like I said, that dawn, what they currently called the dusk, the Dusk Riders was their original name, or Dusk Guard or something like that. I think it might have been, it's Dusk something or other. But they've got white armor, like this bone white, so it's like a warmish off white, with the green shoulders, and then brass is their metallic color on their stuff. Really, really cool looking armor. So, given how talented a painter you are, Meeks, I really think you'll enjoy them because they're a dirty, dirty white. Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they convert to plastic, because that's the thing. The word is that a lot is coming to plastic, like a ton is coming to plastic, which is crazy. Because I mean, that's going to be amazing. A lot of this are the game has become big enough that they've decided to migrate to plastic. I mean, the fact that they're moving the Kratos and the Sicarian, two of the biggest tanks in the game, for them, they're moving them from resin to plastic, and the plastic versions are $125 tanks, which, I mean, that puts them in line with Baneblades. So, and that's about what they are, because they're all Lords of War. So it'll be good to see. I definitely want to get at least one of them. I'm still torn whether I want a Sicarian or I want a Kratos. I mean, I'm gonna have two armies. I don't know if I'm gonna get one for each. I'm still on the fence there. That's gonna come down to how much do I play. I want to build a basic force, just dudes and bikes and predators and rhinos and some dreadnoughts, and just start there, and then let it build itself up naturally. I don't want to go nuts right off the bat. Let's see here. Here's the thing, Tog. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're your figures. There are some people that will freak out if you're not accurate to the paint scheme, and there are certain people that'll freak out if you try to make your own chapter and your own stuff. And I understand where those people are coming from. But these are your figures. If you want to use a really cool fucking green, then use that green and just go with it. If they come up with a sprue pack for just Death Guard well, I mean that's a good point. They've already got the one that they made in resin for the Imperial Fists. And I'll be honest with you, Meeks. These guys are basically Marines. You could go and just get, for Space Wolves at least, you can get all of the loyalist ones. You can use their plastic upgrade sprues, the ones that they made for 40K. You can use those upgrade sprues in 30K, at least as far as the shoulders go, and some of the accoutrements. You might, if they've got guns on them, you might not be able to use like bolt rifles, because I know there's one of the Iron Hands actually has a stalker bolt rifle. You can't actually use that bolt rifle. But pretty much everything else is pretty much fair game. Obviously, the Primaris helmets, if there's specialty Primaris helmets, obviously those are hands off too. But those shoulder pads are all usable. And the little accoutrements, the glue-on pieces, like for the wolves, there's a there's a belt flap, and there's belt pouches, and there's the little sigil things. Those are all perfectly usable. Those are absolutely all perfectly usable. I've been going over it with a bunch of other people. Again, I'm an idiot, so I just research the crap out of stuff and research because I want to be able to make informed decisions. So the big things to know about using models and using 40K stuff in 30K. First off, the 40K, take all the primary stuff, stick it aside. We're only talking about firstborn equipment. All the bikes are usable. The Rhino is usable. The Predator is usable, but you can't use the twin Laz turret because of that doesn't exist in 30K. Right. Well, and to be honest with you, Meeks, that's why I've compiled some prints, as I sent you the link for that, of where you can grab. And Cults 3D, there's lots of places you can get Mark III armor, Mark III helmet, Mark IV helmet. I mean, Death Guard are pretty well known for very specifically using Mark III and Mark IV armor almost exclusively. But they've specifically said that all armies will use whatever they get their hands on. So, they've kind of wiggled around the lore a little bit to go, it's mainly by aesthetic. So you'll find Iron Warriors and Death Guard in beaky armor. To me, that doesn't seem right. It's like, wait, what? No, they didn't really use the beaky armor, but they're saying they did. And I was actually one of the big lore channels was actually saying if you really want to make your army look really gritty, and really accurate, what you do is when you get your box of beaky armors and you take those beaky armors, go buy a box of the regular 10-man box of Mark IVs, or maybe get a couple, and maybe you get a box of Mark IIIs, and then mix and match parts. Because what a lot of guys did, especially in the later war, as they were just taking damage, all the armors are they are cross compatible. So seeing people with piecemeal armor, that says those guys are veterans. That this armor, this chest piece busted. Hey, this guy's dead. He doesn't need this armor anymore. Clunk. Repaint it in my Legion's armor colors. Boom. I've now got this armor. And I thought that was beautiful. I actually thought that was really, really beautiful. Just a really great way to look at it. It's like, you know what? Just take your bits box and anything you have, Mark 6, Mark 5, Mark 4, 3, and 2, just bunch it together and just kit bash them all together and make a unique army that way. And I'm like, that's a really, really cool idea. So yeah, I'm actually digging out my bits box to see what I have for beaky stuff in my wolf boxes. Because if you get the wolf pack, this is specific to Space Wolves, but if you play Space Wolves and you've bought any of the wolf pack or the Grey Hunters / Blood Talon boxes, Blood Claw boxes. If you go into those boxes, there are beaky helmets in there with runes carved in them and furs on them. Some of those chests, if you look at them, are Mark 6. Some are Mark 5, and there's even some Mark 4s in there. So they're a nice smattering of pieces. You can take some of those pieces and mix them, specifically if you're making wolves, and make some really very wolfy, but definitely heresy era armor. The big thing is to look out for any armor that has the double eagle Aquila on the chest. If it's got the double eagle Aquila on the chest, then that's right out. You can't use that armor. You can, But you will have some people get upset with you if you're playing with a bunch of assholes, being honest with you. But the other thing is that Mark armor, that if it's got the double eagle Aquila, that's Mark 7. And mostly the people that use Mark 7, and that's not saying nobody in the heresy used it, but most of the people that use Mark 7 are late war, very late war defensive Terra. You're talking the Imperial Fists, the Imperial Fists, the Blood Angels, and the White Scars. They're pretty much the guys that are the only ones that have that Mark 7 canonically, because you're other people might have it, but that's after the end of the war, so that's not going to work. And then people are going to get upset about exactly. I mean, people brought it, but you're not people going to want to play with anyhow, for the most part. I mean, like, honestly, the worst you could do is you could buy a box of regular tactical Marines, and if they've got that double eagle on there, take a hobby knife and just scrape it off, sand it a little bit. Hey, you've suddenly gone from a Mark 7 to a Mark 5, because that's pretty much what a Mark 5 looks like. Mark 5s were like prototypes for the 7s. The 6s were a fast reproduction, light set of armor in between those two marks. So if you take that Aquila off, you've got Mark 5s basically. You might want to throw some beaky helmets on or some Mark 4 helmets on there, and then they're just they're heresy armor. What the hell is it? They're patched together armor. Now the other thing is, you will see if you're using Firstborn Marines, if you see armor that has the winged skull on it, those are usable, because those are mostly Mark 6 and Mark 7. They're Mark 6, they're Mark 7, and they're Mark 5 usually. The big thing is that if you have the skull with the wings, you're using those for Astartes that are loyalists, because that is literally what became the symbol of the loyal to Earth Astartes. So again, if you get a bunch of those with those on there and you just want to use them for like your Iron Warriors, just shave them off, and you've got a very plain Mark 5 chest plate, still usable. And again, it's all about the kind of people you play with, and it's about how accurate you want to be with what you're doing. I'm not trying to play no Napoleonic game here. My armors are going to be kind of mashed up. I'm just doing what I can to stay away from Mark 7, just because I don't want someone to go and give me that old hairy eyeball about it. But the other thing you do, I was going to say, I did doing some research. I looked at, like I said, the Rhino and the Predator are both the regular Space Marine 40K. Rhino and Predator are usable, completely usable. I was actually told use the Chaos Rhino, because the Chaos Rhino actually has the Havoc launcher on it, which both sides had the Havoc launcher during 30K. Which means it's totally viable as a unit. Just don't put the extra chaosy stuff on there. And then if you're using like the regular Rhino, the big thing is if there's any Aquilas, to shave the Aquilas off and take off any purity seals. That is a very important point. I had somebody really stress that point to me. Your army should have absolutely zero purity seals on it. That is something that came from the Imperial cults later. So they don't exist. These puppies do not exist in 30K. So if you got them on a figure, shave them the hell off. That's the big thing. And like the Rhino, I know the Aquila is not actually glued on. Don't glue it on the figure. Just don't put it on. Let's check out this text here. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Night Lords were mixing armor. The Night Lords were really known for mixing armor, as were the Iron Warriors and the Iron Hands, because it's like whatever we would just reuse anything. It's what do we have to work with? So grab it and use it. And a couple of chapters actually pretty well known for it. And he was saying, actually, you go by the lore, somebody lost their armor was damaged, and there were dead bodies. Take the armor off somebody and repaint it, repurpose it. So, reuse armor, mix and match armor types. It gets actually pretty cool looking. I saw, he did as an example, he did a bunch of models that were a mix and match of 6, 4, and 2. And it was like, wow, that's really cool. So he's got like Mark 6 level weapons and like arms, but he's got, Mark II helmets and legs with Mark IV chests. And it's a really good looking Marine. It's very obviously a Marine, but it's like, well, what Mark armies he's wearing? He's wearing what freaking works. So hey, you leave my Tau seal alone. Yes. Those of you that can't see it up close, Kirsch is making a joke because, yes, I have a purity seal because I am Tau purity. Didn't stick. And it fell in the trash. Look what you did. Oh, that's what happened. The magnet came unglued. My goodness. Let me grab some super glue here somewhere and fix this while we sit. Or not, because I don't have any within reach. Yeah, whatever. Go back up there for now. All right. So yeah. Again, we're talking about what can you use in 30K from 40K. So I'm going to do this again because I'm getting off topic on this. All right. Bikes. Shave off Aquilas. Oh, that's not stable. That's not stable at all. Oh, man. This whole shelf is coming out. I was moving it because I'm getting ready to move. And you are just not wanting to stay up. Christ on the crutch. We're doing some moving and doing some rearranging. Go there for now. Okay. Bikes. Shave off Aquilas. Shave off purity seals. Same for rhinos and predators. You can't use the twin Las predator. You can only use the. If you get a predator, wait until you see the rulebook for how to build it, how it can. But I know the twin Las predator does not work. But Cromlech makes a replacement turret that you can stick on a regular predator that works for 30K, as does a couple other. Plus, of course, obviously, if you have a 3D printer, Cults 3D is your friend. Don't get any of the weird variants, the Razorback or the ones with the mortars, because they don't have any of those. They have the one that has the big twin missile rack, the Whirlwind, I think it is, but they're different. So hold off if you're not really looking to get one of those right off the bat. If you really, really want one. Drop pods. They are good to go. Drop pods are great. And I saw a really cool thing you can do with a drop pod. If you buy the plastic drop pod, now this is apparently a really common thing done for people that want to play with a Dreadclaw. Now, a Dreadclaw is a kind of drop pod that only in 40K, only the Chaos members, only the Chaos Marines have. And I don't know if who all has access to it in 30K, but I know it is a thing in 30K. you basically buy a drop pod. And if you're familiar with how a drop pod looks, it's got those long fins. Well, apparently you can flip the fins around and put them on upside down, and they stick out then, and it comes together like a Dread Claw. So a lot of people, rather than buying the $350 Dread Claw model from Forge World, buy a regular plastic drop pod and just flip the fins upside down and use that as a Dread Claw. And everybody seems to be pretty cool with that. So drop pods are a thing and are quite usable. Scouts are usable. You can't use the Scouts with you can't put the heavy bolter on the Scout, but Scouts are a thing, and they're actually pretty good in 30K from what I'm told. So Scouts are a thing and they're usable. What else did I hear that I saw? All the speeders are usable. All the old, firstborn speeders are usable. Gosh, there was, like all the speeders are usable. I'm trying to think what else there was. There was one other thing I can think of off the top of my head that was, obviously Dreadnoughts. I mean, everybody knows the Contemptor because the Contemptor was first brought out as a 30K model and they got brought into 40K. So you got the Contemptor, obviously the Leviathan, which is getting a plastic make, and the Derido, which is a Forge World model, but we're going to guess that's going to probably get a plastic one coming soon. But plastic Contemptor, which is a thing, but also the regular good old-fashioned Dreadnought, your good old blocky square Dreadnought. Those are usable in 30K. They're actually quite usable. The Ironclad is actually one a lot of people suggest to get your hands on because Chain Fist the Chain Fist on that thing is a really good weapon in 30K. So, but the regular old Dreadnoughts are perfectly usable. So, I mean, that's a huge, huge thing there. Now, again, if you're playing Wolves, getting their unique troops there. Also, obviously, plastic Terminators. Now, obviously, there's already plastic for both the Kafrakti and the other old type because they made them from plastic for 30K, but you can get them in 40K. But also the traditional, the hippo-faced Terminators, those are usable in 30K. Their weapon options are very different, but they exist in 30K. They're called Indomitus pattern Terminators. They're usable. They're quite usable. So if you're a big Terminator fan, again, one of the things they talk about is that if they have that big Crux Terminata on the shoulder pad, you're probably going to want to swap out that shoulder pad or shave it smooth. The 30K Terminators don't have the Crux Terminatus. Part of the reason they don't have the Crux Terminatus is that supposedly in the lore of the Marines, in their whole verbal story that may just be a bunch of wahoo between them, every Crux Terminatus has a couple of grains of armor from the Emperor's armor in the Crux Terminatus. Obviously, since the Emperor's still walking around and kicking ass during 30K, he's not got a piece of armor in your Crux Terminatus. So you'll want to swap out that shoulder. It's pretty easy to just scrape it clean. If you got a 3D printer, you can print a shoulder to cover it. I don't know about the assault bike, but one of the videos I said they're usable, so I'm guessing there is an equivalent to the assault bike in there. I I like the look of the 30K bikes, but the whole front wheel thing looks a little odd to me. So I kind of prefer the 40K bikes, but it's the same thing. It's just two guns and a dude on there. So what I plan on doing, because the guys on the bikes are wearing Mark 7s, I think if I get a bunch of the 40K bikes, because I think the guys that get on there, the torso is separate, I might swap out the torso for a bunch of Mark 4 torsos, just to make it look cool. Again, the joy of having Mars. Yeah, I think that. Oh, and there's some of the flyers. I'd have to look at it again and make sure. Again, when the Liber comes out in 2 weeks, before you go and invest in anything, if you're not sure, wait until Liber comes out, because Liber, the books are, we call them codexes, they call them Libers in 30K. So the Liber Astartes and the Liber Hereticus are coming out at the same time that the box set comes out. Look in your Liber to see what units your army is allowed to have. And if there's a 30K, 40K equivalent, use it, save yourself some money. I think we'll see a lot more when things start to populate in on the main Games Workshop site. And again, once you have your Liber for your army, that'll help a lot. But I'm excited. Like I said, I'm super excited. I really want to get some games of 30K in. One of the big things about 30K that's got me all excited is the fact that it is, again, I talked about this a lot last week, is the fact that it is so narrative driven. It's very story driven. The missions are story driven and narrative mission. So, I mean, yes, it's a war game, and yeah, there's a win or lose of the whole 9 yards. But the missions are meant to be, and I don't know how that works mechanically, but the missions are meant to be, they're designed to be more storytelling type missions. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of more of effects that affect the entire battlefield, and weird effects in play, and things that affect both armies going on at the same time, along with what the objectives and the mission is. So I look forward to seeing what that exactly translates as. I'm really looking forward to this game. I can't wait to start throwing some dice on this thing. I'm looking forward to them. Scatter dice! Throwing a grenade and scattering. Ding, 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 ding. That'll be hella fun. All right. I think we've dedicated an hour now to talking about 30K. I think we need to move on to our next topic. We have got the new box kill team. It just came out with our Chaos Guard and a group of Infiltrator Marines. They can be done as infiltrators, or I forget the name of those guys. Not intercessors. They're infiltrators or sneaky Marines. I forget what they do. The new box is coming out. It looks like they're really trying to push more Kill Team out. There's a lot of talk about the stuff that's coming for Kill Team. We also, which is good. I actually want to really get into Kill Team like soon. I think with this box, now that we finally have solid Marine rules and stuff, I think we now have enough armies. There's now like 8 or 10 armies that have their cards. So you actually can play a solid game and not just be... a lot of people are complaining that the orcs and the veteran guard for the longest time really were kind of overpowered because they had stuff that nobody else could do. And then as other armies came out, they got their cards and that brought them into balance. But you really wanted to have one of the armies that was in a release set because they got special things for them. I'm glad to see Kill Team is moving forward with that. Guard. We got see a big release for Guard the other day. It got leaked over the weekend, and then immediately Monday morning, GW jumped all over that shit, like, oh, no, 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 and put a high res version of the picture out and went over what units are in this release and this leak. So since Lord Castellan Creed is in Trajan's prison, seeing his daughter take over as Lord Castellan of the Cadian army. So it's his daughter Ursula, but she's wearing his greatcoat. That looks great. The Karskin are back. Yeah, I mean that new this 30 cab teleporters. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that guard league. Man, those Karskin are back. Finally, our Karskin troopers are back after being out of print for 20 years, 15 years. They had been replaced by the Tempestus Scions, and now Karskin are back. And Karskin are basically, I mean, by the old rules, they're Tempestus Scions without being beholden to the Inquisition. They're Cadian. They are Cadian troops. They're Cadian elite troops. So it'll be interesting to see how the rules on the Karskins work. I'm looking forward to them. I'm looking forward to seeing them back in play. The Karskins were, when I was originally playing Imperial Guard back in the 90s, when the Karskin first came out, they were one of my favorite add-ons to my Guard army. I thought they were just the coolest looking dudes with their sealed helmets and the rebreathers and the big old guns they carried. They were cool figures. So I'm looking forward to their return. That new Chicken Walker, the new Sentinel. Now, when I first saw that Sentinel, I'm like, wow, they've got a new version of the Sentinel. It's going to be like a new unit. No, it's a replacement for the old model. Now, I'm one of the few that really liked the old Sentinel model. I know a lot of people thought it really looked kind of lightweight and kind of meh. And honestly, it was. But that was the point. It was a inexpensive model, both monetarily and point-wise, and it served a very specific purpose, and it was a very good fast attack choice. And I love that model, and I love what it did, and I've got a few myself, and now that I know they're replacing it, I know where I can get another one. I'm going to grab another copy of it before they go out of print. But this new model that's coming in it's a Sentinel. It's the same unit. It's just a new updated, and it's much beefier. So it looks like, and the way they talked about it is that what we saw was the armored version. The Scout models could be the same thing, but there's going to be armor plates that you actually, instead of it just being topless like the Scout one is now, you're actually going to have armor plates. There's more armor plates on the legs and on the body that you don't have on the Scout version. So it'll be very, very visually different. So, yeah, again, I think the update to it, I liked the update. I'm like, that really looks cool. That doesn't look like a Scout Walker from Star Wars, which has always been the biggest knock on the Walker, on the Sentinel Walker, is that it looked just like a Scout Walker from Star Wars. It does not look like that anymore. It is very much its own vehicle. I'm curious as to how much bigger the model is, because currently it runs around a 60 millimeter base. I'm hoping they don't move it up to an 80 millimeter base. I'm hoping they leave it on a 60. I'd be kind of upset if they moved up to an 80, because as a 60, it's very mobile. It's a very fast unit. So having it on a 60, but having it still very fast, it's really good. If they move it up to an 80, now you're talking like Primaris Dreadnought sizes, or even that's the same. An 80 is the same. The 80 millimeter base is the base The Leviathan comes on, the Dorado comes on it, and the Helverin Knight comes on an 80. The Redemptor comes on a 90. So I'm hoping they leave it on the 60 that it's on. Yeah, I think Stormspeeder's on a 90 as well. They're on big bases. I'm hoping they leave the Sentinel. You couldn't see too low on the figures. You couldn't see how big the base was. So I'm hoping they leave it on a 60. It's a great model though. I think it looks great. And then they showed off Carskin and that means Guard's coming. That means Guard is coming soon. So Guard players, rejoice. Your book is coming. They're focusing on Chaos right now, but whoever the leaker is that is getting these shots, they have to be giving GW fits because, GW builds its hype in a very specific way. And this person is literally like, whoever is getting these leaks, like they've always had a problem with leaks, but the amount of photo leaks they have had this year has been crazy. The amount of snuck photos of models, of sprues, of promotional pictures. Again, that Votan leak that happened last week, where somebody actually got a box of the freaking stratagem cards and literally took pictures of the front and back of the box and then took pictures of all the cards. Holy crap, that had to be a gut punch to GW, because that just gave away a lot of the hype there. But again, people are like, we want this stuff anyhow. So it's not like getting rid of hype, but it's just like they're not letting them milk it for every last thing they've got because it's already out in the wild. So to make up for it, what they do, they leak the new model, or they showcase, they preview the new model, a fully AI model that's the size of a Castellan robot, but it's kin. So it's a citizen because kin is kin. That's something they've said in some of the earlier promotional materials. So it's a robot, but it's its own character. It's a member of the dwarves. It's an AI, and according to the Imperium, it should be destroyed. And the kin are like, no, he's one of ours. He's one of our guys. He's with us. So now I'm really wondering, holy crap, what is going to go on there? Are the Votan going to be in the Imperium? Are they going to be in Xenos? Or are they going to be their own thing? I hope they're not their own thing, but it's looking like they might be because, you look at the lore. These guys traded with the Tau. They're the reason the Tau have ion weapons and some of their faster than light travel capabilities. That's not in the Imperium's best interests. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping they do Guard. I'm hoping they do CSM, Demons, Guard, then Votan. And then they're going to do World Leaders at the end of the year. The Votan and Guard are going to be which one comes first. Which one do they have to release now? Guard needs that codex. You're absolutely right. Guard are in such a bad state right now. And the nice thing is, being honest, honestly, if you're looking at the competitive scene, yeah, Tyranids are still really out there, but what's really happened is that last data slate and a few of the changes have kind of shoved a bunch more armies up and a few armies down. And now you've got more like 6, 7 maybe even 8 armies that are all on the competitive end of things. I mean, Tyranids are doing great, obviously, but Tau are still doing great. Custodians are still doing good. Eldar are doing good. Nobody's playing Drukhari very much right now, but the ones that do, they still do well. Marines are quite playable right now. My God, Iron Hands won a major. No, it wasn't a major. It was just a GT. But Iron Hands won a GT last weekend, and like Iron Hands, Wolves, and White Scars have really been making strong showings lately. All three of the really kind of the cream of the crop. Oh, and Blood Angels. God, Blood Angels too. Blood Angels suddenly went. We don't have any stratagems to help us with our survivability, but Armor Contempt, we have everything else we need. Our only problem is survivability. So you gave us that, we're going to get in your face and kill you. And holy crap, Blood Angels jumped up. So you've got the top 4 guys are just the guys that are get in your face fight, or you're not taking me off the table. That's what the Marines are playing right now. I like to think they're going to do an Astartes 2.0, but to be honest, I don't think they've released enough units. I don't think they've released enough new units that aren't in the codex. I don't think there's anything that's not in the codex that came out at the beginning of this edition. I honestly don't see them doing an update. Unless they do, and again, they've done it before where they've done like, oh, it's a set army, but we're going to release a whole bunch of units. I think we might see it that way. This is completely conjecture on my part. Please don't take this as gospel. This is just me looking at trends. So right now, we're coming up on the 2-year mark of Indominus. Indominus came out in August in 2020. It's 2 years. We have got releases going on through the end of the year that we pretty well know of. We've seen paths for Horus Heresy. We know that some, like they said that World Leaders are coming out before the end of the year. I'm assuming they're going to be the November release because they're going to push them right at the end of the year, just like last year when they pushed the Black Templars. I think we're going to see the same thing at the end of the year here. By the end of the year, everybody will have their codex. I don't think they need the supplements. Honestly, I don't think the chapters really need their supplements. The basic book covered all their needs, really, and they update. I mean, just being honest, I don't think they need their update. I don't think there's an update they really need. Not saying they're not going to get one. I'm just saying they're probably later in the burner, and I'm thinking if we do see it, and this is where I'm getting to this. So you've got Chaos Space Marines, Demons, Guard, Votan, World Leaders. That is your arc through the end of the year. I'm thinking near the end of the year, we're going to see the beginnings of the big story. Now, anybody who's been playing for more than an edition knows what I'm talking about. At the end of 8th edition, starting in like October, November, they began the big story. And that was, at that point, that was the Psychic Awakening. And they were releasing monthly releases, a new book practically every month with updates, new rules, new stuff for each army in each book. And they covered an army in each book. And they pushed forward a large narrative campaign over the next 9 months. Basically, from the from the November of 19 through the release of Indominus in August of 2020. The previous edition, at the end of 7th, they did the same thing. It was called The Gathering Storm. And they did this series of hardcover books that were a massive campaign release. And that was where they created the Yanari. That is where we saw the rules for Guilliman. That is where we saw the rules for the release of Mortarion. This was a big release cycle. I am thinking with the release of World Eaters at the end of the year, that is going to be the kickoff of the new crusade, the 14th crusade, or whatever they're going to call this new crusade, now led by the World Eaters, because they're tired of the Black Legion's incompetence. And this is just me conjecturing one of the things it could be. But this is where I'm thinking they're going to start it. And that's going to be the beginning, each one is a Black Crusade. There's been 13 of them. There's been 13 crusades so far, and they've all failed. I'm thinking with this new edition coming, and that's where we're leading into, I think we're going to see Angron come in with the World Eaters, and that is going to begin the new story cycle. So we're going to get 7-8 months of monthly books and maybe some new units and new rules and new stuff leading into the new edition that we should be getting a little bit over a year from now. And the only reason I say this, I don't have any insider information. I have nobody confirming this. I have no little bird in my ear. But this is literally the pattern they have done for at least 8th edition, 7th edition, and as I understand it, I don't know what it was called, but they did the same thing in 6th edition. So for 3 editions, this has been their release cycle. They release. They spend 2.5 years or so releasing regular releases. Then they have a little less than a year of this story release, and then the new edition drops. I think that's what we're going to see. I think this is where they're leading it. But this is... Give me a moment here, folks. Use on this channel. There we go. Well, thank you so much, Commodore. Appreciate you, buddy. Well, every edition starts with Marines. So I think that's why that's why you're here to take care of them. I honestly think that's when we're going to see our Marines 2.0 book, Kirsch. I think during that cycle, we're going to see a bunch new Marines because the Indominus Crusade is now in full swing. We're going to see some new Indominus units. And then we'll get our Marines 2.0. Or we'll just go right into 10th edition, and the Marines will be the first codex out the chute. That is my thought. Again, this is me being completely conjecture. This is me taking a wild stab in the darkness here. But I'm just going off of how they have done business for the last 10 to 15 years. It'll be interesting to see. Because, again, every edition's been different. 7th edition started off as Dark Angels versus Chaos. 8th edition was Ultramarines versus Death Guard. 9th edition was Marines in general. The Ultramarines were on the cover. It was Marines in general versus the Necrons. This new Necron invasion threat. So it'll be interesting to see what this next edition brings. Because Marines are the poster boys, so they'll always be one of the two armies in the starter set. But it becomes a question, if Chaos is this huge push at the end of the edition, since Chaos was just highlighted and Chaos got all this new stuff, are they going to immediately put Chaos in the next edition? I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. And if you look back historically, the 2nd edition starter was Marines versus Orcs. Technically, it was Blood Angels versus Orcs. The 4th edition starter, I don't know what the 3rd edition starter was. I don't even know if there was one. But I know the 4th edition starter is the classic Black Templars versus Drukhari starter. You had the 5th edition, which is Assault at Black Reach, which was Ultramarines versus Orcs again. I don't remember what 6th was. Or maybe that was 6th. Was Black Reach either 6th or it was either 5th or 6th? I just remember it was a really good box. I really, really wanted that freaking box. I almost had a chance. It might have been 6th edition. Thinking about Black Reach might have been 6th edition because there were some really, really good figures in that box. That's right. 5th edition was NIDS. So 6th edition was Black Reach. So 4th was Marines Drukhari. 5th was Marines NIDS. And 6th was Black Reach. 7th was Chaos versus Dark Angels. So, no, that was the 7th edition starter. The 7th edition starter, I know because that was what got me back in the game. Was Dark Angels versus Chaos. So yeah. Necrons can be really, Necrons are still popping up here and there. The people that are showing up with Necrons in tournament lists are still doing some stuff. There's some really crazy ways to play them. They're just not playable the same old way, and there's some armies that deal with them really easily. But you need volume fire. So it happens. So yeah, Black Reach was 6. So what are we looking at? What could be? So then we go to 10th, and we go to 10th to get Marines, but we have no idea who the big bugaboo is going to be. Could it be Tau? I doubt it. I'd like it, but I doubt it. I doubt they're going to put Tau in a starter. I don't know why. Tau just don't feel like an army you put in a starter. With all the new models they've gotten, I don't think you're going to see. I don't think you're going to see Eldar in there. Again, if I'm to be honest with you, I honestly think if they do anybody in a starter, it's going to be somebody that needs new models. It's going to be a refresh of new models. So at that point, since Chaos Marines got their new fix and got all their new models, and by the end of the year, you'll have the World Eaters getting their new models. There literally comes down to two choices. But Orcs did get just refreshed. That's the thing. Orcs just got a refresh. So honestly, what you're looking at, being honest, looking at it by the numbers wise, who needs to refresh the hardest? You're going to have Marines, who are the poster boy. More than likely, you're looking at Marines versus either Drukhari or, in my opinion, I think if they're going to do anything, they're going to do NIDS and give the NIDS new Gene Stealers and new they're going to refresh a lot of their little guy miniatures. So they'll get the little guys refreshed, the Hormagaunts, Termagants, those guys. Or we're going to see Emperor's Children. Like we saw Death Guard in 8th, we'd see Emperor's Children in 10th. I think that's where the game is going. I think NIDS are your best bet. I honestly think NIDS are your best bet. I think Drukhari are the next oldest set of miniatures. And I think Emperor's Children are the ones that have the most lore that haven't been updated as far as Chaos goes, and it would let them get into their book. And then you'd have all 4 of the unique chapters of Chaos Marines have their own book. So that's a thought. That is completely conjecture on my part. That is not even an educated guess. That is me going, that's what I think. And a little bit of, that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Emperor's Children. I would love to see Emperor's Children and then release Fulgrim. And then we have all 4 of those bastards on the table. I honestly think we're going to see NIDS, though. I think we're going to see the return of the NIDS. So, that being said, I'm tired. It's wrapping up in time. It is darn near 10 o'clock. So if you'd be so kind as to give me a little thumbs up there for making you a little bit more entertained, a little bit more informational, and just hanging out with you and having a good time, I'd appreciate it. Every Tuesday, we run this from 8:30 to 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. This is Taco Tuesday. I'm Big D. I appreciate all of you. Remember, everybody, hobby may be life, but life is more than hobby. So, build your figures, paint your figures, make that terrain, build that table, play those games, roll that dice, and keep living that epic life. I'm Big D. I love all of you. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and have a wonderful evening.